Oh, 2035. How are you?
Good. I changed my handle because I felt like yesterday there were people that thought Elon Musk was Santa Claus, asking him for silly things instead of asking questions like, "You raise lease prices on the Model Y. Does this mean we're at a bottom on pricing?" Things like that.
What would you have asked him?
I would have asked him, does he see us at a bottom on prices now that he's raising the Model Y lease? Are we kind of at that point? And two, how did the 0.99 finance work? How are our inventory looking? Is it something he's going to use again, or was it a one-time deal? I care about the financials.
What do you think is the best question?
The best question that I heard,
Yeah.
you know, I'd have to think about that. There was a good question. I thought the battery topic was interesting, although honestly, I just don't understand the technology enough to have a good opinion on that. So, yeah, I'd have to think about it.
All right. You can't remember any question, can you? Ah.
Well, well, to be honest, yeah, I mean,
I caught you off guard.
I tuned out a lot of the questions because when you
I'm
ask
kidding.
questions
I'm
like,
kidding. Okay,
"How are
that's
you
fine.
not going to
That's
die?"
fine.
I
I put you on the spot. That's okay. I didn't mean to.
well,
Actually, I did. I did mean to. I guess.
that's
Omar,
okay.
how are you?
Hey,
Tesla stock down 2.3%, $559 billion of market cap. Overall markets, Dow Jones down 0.4%, Nasdaq flat, S&P 500 down slightly, Nvidia up 2%. Wow. Except for Nvidia, everything else is pretty much down.
yeah.
Interesting. What do you make of that?
Well, I guess it means Elon's not important, right? Because the stock went down. So, no, I mean, normal market fluctuations. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the market was pricing in already Elon's comp, I guess. One news did come out just a little bit ago. Vanguard voted in favor of the comp package.
Yeah, they may have really been the decisive votes. And we had really speculated about what they were going to do. A lot of people said, oh, well, what if they just all vote for, what the proxy advisory firm said? But of course, like I mentioned, it's not all just let's just do what the proxy advisory firm said. All of these institutions and passive index funds, and Vanguard is one of the biggest passive index funds out there. Their Vanguard S&P 500 index. Actually, I believe they actually invented like one of the first S&P
Yeah,
500
that's right.
index funds. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Bogle.
right. So go buy Vanguard funds. They helped us out on this one.
Yeah, Warren Buffett recommends their funds as well for retail investors who are not professionals. Yeah, amazing sport for Elon.
I think the stock is down because of the Q&A section. I think when Wall Street saw that Q&A section, they're like, "Oh my god, I am not holding these shares with these guys. I should probably lighten up a little bit."
I mean, I think everything we heard yesterday, pretty much everything we heard yesterday was expected, right? As expected. There was nothing really too surprising about the meeting, the Q&A section. Everything is down today. All the stocks are down. And Tesla ran up a little bit in recent days. So it's not that surprising, I guess. Let's see. In the last month, Tesla has been flat. In the last week, he ran up a little bit into the meeting. What do you think is going to change this trend?
Um,
I mean, we had news today.
Well, I think strong deliveries would be a good sign. I mean, I think it seems like we're probably going to be down year over year again. We had 460,000 deliveries last year. I don't think that they can beat that this year. I mean, I would be shocked if they could beat that. If they did beat that, the stock would definitely go up. But I think we're really looking at, while it's going to be stronger than last quarter, you're going to have another year over year decline, and that's going to generate the headlines that you can predict. Oh, Tesla sales down year over year again. They'll probably have a year over year decline, et cetera, et cetera. So, obviously what we really want is earnings growth. And it's still kind of a mystery where that comes from. You can have Musk go on stage and say, I think robots are going to be worth $30 trillion. Everybody needs a robot. Well, okay. How, how are you going to increase the sales of the cars you have today? Because they're, falling a little bit year over year. So, as usual, there's that tension between the long term vision and just actually demonstrating earnings growth in the current quarter.
I think
Hey, I think Omar highlighted deliveries, which is kind of confusing. I thought it was an AI company. I don't understand why deliveries are important.
Well, deliveries are how they generate most of their earnings today.
Yoda.
Yeah, I think in additions to earnings growth, it would be new products. I think the last new product announced was the Cybertruck, so it's been many years. So I think the concept vehicles that's coming up will drive the stock up. As well, when Optimus is deployed in Tesla's factories, I think when the videos come out that they're doing tasks, that's gonna help people visualize the Optimus opportunity.
Yoda, what do you think about the FSD news in China today?
Yeah, I think it's on track to move forward in China, and it's setting up well for my unpopular coffee bet.
So you're full steam convinced that we're going to have driverless robotaxis by 8/8.
In a very restricted, in a very restricted route in China, backed up by remote operators who can help with the passenger if they're ever stuck, much like you do remote control vehicles remotely. And it's going to be a very limited route. But technically, why is that not possible?
Omar, what do you think of the news in China?
Well, I'm not sure what the news is, to be honest. I mean, I read it and it didn't make any sense to me. They said we have 10 vehicles that are going to be something. So maybe a Chinese person can explain to me what they're actually saying. But, just to respond to Yoda's point, I don't think that the software is at a point where they can launch a robotaxi service yet, even with remote operators. Remote operators cannot handle safety critical events, right? So, for example, if it just really quickly brushes against the curb or another car or something like that, obviously these are rare for the software to do, but all of that needs to be handled by the software itself. Once you get to the point where it's only like, okay, I'm confused which way to go, I need help, I need to turn around, that kind of stuff, and it's happening pretty rarely, then you can move to remote interventions. But I mean, at least what I'm seeing from 12.4, it's getting there, but it's not there yet. So I definitely wouldn't expect a robotaxi service on 8.8. I'm obviously expecting a vehicle unveil. And maybe sometime in late 2025 or 2026, the software might be good enough to actually start to operate in some limited driverless capacity with human operators. But of course, that's kind of speculation too.
Yoda. Hey, Omar. Do you think it's possible, technically, for Tesla to take the camera and create this emulator whereby the remote driver has a wraparound screen or some sort of a goggle type vision system for them to essentially uh, feel like they're in the car? Is that technically possible from a technical perspective?
I mean, from a technical perspective, you can drive the car over the internet. And there was actually a car in Vegas that did this, but it's a terrible idea. Okay. Imagine someone's driving the car over the internet and the internet goes down, right? Someone trips over the internet cable or the cell service goes down or you're in a spotty coverage area. It doesn't work and it's not autonomy. I would refer people again to Waymo's blog post where they go over their remote monitoring and operation system. And it has to be that the car is really good at handling things itself, but it's able to actually phone out and just ask a question or something like, hey, do I have enough room to go around here? Something like that, where it's unsure and it needs a human to confirm. And those need to be very, very infrequent. And safety critical stuff has to be like to zero before you're able to really do that. So it's not really about wrapping the screen around and allowing them to drive the car over the internet. That just doesn't work. Humans can give some hints, it can answer some questions when the system's unsure, but you can't just drive the car over the internet. That's never going to work.
Magic.
Hey, Yaman, do you remember I sent a post yesterday about a lawsuit that's going on? Do you want to
Hold
put it on
on.
the
What do you
screen?
think of the China news?
I don't what they have 10 cars driving. I mean, it's not really material. It seems like inconsequential at the moment.
Well, let's look at this news real quick. So these are at the top of our screens are two tweets by Chris Zhang. Chris says the test appears to be a robotaxi used to connect the main urban area with an airport. Okay, so it's downtown to airport, which may be different from FSC supervised as we understand it. Omar, are these Tesla employees, contractors that are testing robotaxi capability for a well-traveled, often traveled route?
I have no idea what they're talking about. 10 vehicles to carry out FSD experimental testing. Like, I don't understand. Like they're just going to install FSD supervised on 10 cars? Maybe there's something being lost in translation here. I don't understand.
Interesting. If anybody in the audience has any information on this, please request to speak. Magic, go ahead.
Hey, so I just posted it to your comment section. So we were discussing the AI, the XAI versus Tesla chip situation, and I know that you guys didn't really. I mean, it seemed like inconsequential. It didn't seem like a big deal, but I mean, they are being sued officially as of yesterday for this. So that is true. Now, whether they win or lose, that's different, but they are being sued. So somebody believes they have a case on that.
Dude, there are 8 billion people in the world. There's somebody believing some sort of conspiracy theory, ridiculous stuff every single day. And anybody can get sued at any time. Doesn't mean it's going to lead to anything. So let's see if there's any material development. Yanni, you have to raise your hand and stay on mute until I call on you.
Yeah, obviously public companies are sued every day over all kinds of things. Anybody with one share can sue. So if somebody filing a lawsuit doesn't really prove anything, they have to actually, I don't know, maybe move past the dismissal stage, actually get a judgment in their favor before you can say conclusively that the law was broken, for example. So I don't believe that they're going to prevail in this lawsuit. They don't really have a case. We might get some interesting discovery out of it, though.
All right. Well, while reflecting on yesterday's meeting, any other things that we should be talking about? Anything that needs more attention?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing I think that could impact people's growth outlook is what are those three products that are under wraps, right? So they've talked about new, more affordable models. They've talked about a new roadster. They've talked about a robotaxi vehicle. So right now, as people just kind of chart it out, they're saying, okay, well, where's the growth coming from on the vehicle side of the business? Because Wall Street still doesn't care about any of this stuff Elon's talking about, selling the inference compute robots. They're all like, okay, whatever. We don't know when that's going to materialize. What's actually going to predict earnings is the auto business. So most people are still looking at that as much as he wants to say, well, we're an AI robotics company. That's the future. And people are looking at it and they're saying, well, where is the growth actually coming from? Specifically, what new vehicle models are you introducing that are going to drive sales growth? So if they actually come out and they say, look, we've got this new car, it's like a smaller Model Y, it's $30,000, or we've got this new Tesla van, or whatever, and people are actually going to buy this and this is going to give us sales growth. They talked about the semi expanding. He approved plans for mass production. And he said, look, this could actually move the needle financially, which was a little bit surprising to me. I think that's really what investors need to hear. They need to have it go from being something that's under a white sheet to pulling that white sheet off and actually giving investors a sense of what that future product plan looks like. And a lot of people, as he's focused more on AI and robotics, they've said, well, are they going to do more vehicles? Are they investing in supercharging? Are they investing in new vehicles? Have they abandoned casting? Right? Like, and some of this is just like people letting their imagination run a little bit wild. But that I think is kind of one of the most interesting things is what's under the sheet. And it better be something good, I think. Um, and it is going to be, and probably at least for probably some of the vehicles. Although he did make an interesting comment where he said one of these things is not going to look that cool or something, but then it actually will be. So I was like, what could that be? Is it like a Tesla minivan or something that looks kind of lame, or seems kind of lame at first, but actually maybe uh, could have a market? I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he said the semi is going to be it's going to move the needle. I forget the exact wording, but do you expect a material ramp on semi production in the next couple of years?
Well, the biggest question with the semi is, what battery pack are you putting in it? So, if they figured out a way to get, for example, like a 300-mile semi with LFP, then they could actually probably make a lot of those. So, they have a 300-mile and a 500-mile version. I believe the semi has like an 800 kilowatt hour battery pack. So, it's about 10 times the battery pack in a Model 3 long range and about 8 times the battery pack in a Model S or Model X long range. So, you could make 10 Model S's and sell them for $750,000, or you could make block 8 Model S's, right? So a little bit less than that, and you could make one semi with the same battery pack, and you're probably not going to be able to sell that for $600,000, right? So assuming battery capacity is fixed, it actually probably makes more sense to put it in smaller cars from a profit perspective. But it actually makes more sense to put it in a semi from an emissions perspective because these are running all the time. So, I do wonder, this thing just needs so much battery. So, where is the battery coming from? One possibility is the Panasonic 2170 cells in Nevada. That's what they've been using for the prototype units. But of course, those cells are highly coveted now that the Inflation Reduction Act only gives the tax credit to US made batteries. So, can they afford to divert that cell supply away from Model 3 and Y? 4680 could be a solution. They could maybe put 4680 in the Model Y and Model 3, or they could put 4680 in the Semi. But although that's been ramping, it's still at, maybe 50,000 units of Cybertruck a year. It seems like Cybertruck needs all that capacity. They want to ramp to about 130,000 units a year by the end of the year. So that is increasing, but Cybertruck is also swallowing up all of it, right? So maybe, they have a new 4680 facility in Giga Nevada. Maybe they do a deal with CATL. Maybe they do a deal with BYD. BYD is really good with commercial vehicles. So they could potentially, I think, have a battery solution. And the commercial tax credit for the Tesla Semi, it doesn't have any provisions around battery sourcing. So you can straight up just import a battery from China and it's no problem, although there are those new tariffs. But I don't think that they affect the import of a battery pack for a vehicle. I could be wrong. So, that would probably be the biggest question. If you tell me where the battery cells are coming from, I can probably give you a sense of what the production ramp is going to be. But it must be some meaningful quantity if he thinks it's going to move the needle. So they must feel pretty confident about the cell supply coming in from somewhere. Maybe he thinks 4680 is going to ramp or something like that. I don't know, but that'll really be the biggest determinant of the ramp, I think.
All right, we'll keep an eye on for battery supply from China. Sierra, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I regarding the 10 vehicles with the new FSD rollout, something that Elon said during the shareholder meeting was that they're using shadow mode to test new versions of FSD by running the software in the background in cars that don't have FSD enabled to compare the decisions made by FSD against that of a human driver. So I'm wondering if that is what the 10 vehicle rollout of new FSD is. Rock seems to think it's specifically 10 vehicles in China, but I can't find anything supporting that yet.
Omar, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I can't figure it out. It seems like he's kind of saying they're going to run 10 robotaxis between the airport and something, but I don't know. Like, people say a lot of things. So I still don't understand what the story actually is or what he's trying to say.
Sierra, what was your favorite part of the meeting yesterday?
Mostly just Elon's energy. You could see his excitement about all of the things coming, and it was really inspiring to see him be so beat. His sense of humor is always awesome to me. The whole thing was great. I'm jealous of everyone who was there, but it was awesome to watch.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Yes.
You have a question?
No questions. I'm here to answer questions and give the best alpha on geopolitics and
Yaniv, go ahead.
Hey, just to comment about robotaxi, based on Elon saying yesterday that the remote control over the cars, he thinks will be a solution. I don't see that that's happening so fast.
Omar?
Pretty much every driverless car that's out there, you need some way to be able to remotely watch the cars and see what they're doing, where they are, and sometimes give them commands. So it's not really the same as remotely driving the car. It's just helping them with things that they might be confused about, giving them the right answer. So go check out Waymo's blog. They recently wrote about their system and how it works. I think this is just kind of necessary for a driverless car deployment. There has to be some way for the control center to look in and see what they're doing and send them commands. So I think he's kind of just acknowledging something pretty basic here. Obviously, you want a really low number of remote interventions. Remote interventions are not a solution for solving interventions, but you get it down to a point where the safety critical ones are super low. The number of interventions is falling, and then you can kind of take it from the driver's responsibility to, some network operator handling it or something. And that's probably going to be necessary for their first driverless deployment. So I'm not surprised that they're going to be implementing something like that. We've talked in this space before, and I've always mentioned that I think they're going to have something like that.
And they're
Hey, appreciate it. So during the meeting at the end with the questionnaire, I don't know if you remember Jessica Kirsch talking about charging availability. Well, to your point earlier, Omar, about the
what's your question? You're a first time speaker, right?
No, I've spoken on here many times.
Did you change your profile picture?
No, I met you at the. I hugged you actually at the at the Cybertruck release. Remember that?
I'm not sure.
I complimented your hat.
Oh, well, a lot of people did.
Yeah. But not first time speaker. But the point is that the undersold or the under appreciated product, I believe, is the van. People are going to look at it like a minivan, but this could actually disrupt the low income housing market. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, hashtag van life, is that Jessica was talking about how these vehicles, they need to be able to, stay at RV parks and things like this. But this is a crossover that is extremely under appreciated.
Alexander.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like the naughty doomsdays guy, but wouldn't like millions of remote controller cars be an issue?
No. So, the cars that do almost everything themselves. Like when you get into a Waymo and Cruise car, they're doing almost everything themselves. When they rarely run into an issue that requires help, it displays on the screen, hey, hold on, we're asking for help, whatever. It's very rare, right? The common things, they can do it all themselves. We're talking about a really weird scenario. Let's say that there's a crash right in front of you and someone falls out of the car and they're lying on the street and the car goes, "Oh my god, what should I do?" Right? And the human operator can then log in, they can see the camera, they can actually rewind the camera and watch what just happened. And they can give the car a command such as stay put, back up, turn around, move over to let the cop get in, stuff like that for, rare emergency situations where the model on the car isn't necessarily confident in what the right thing to do is. And over time, that data is used and they make the car handle those things itself more and more often. So it's not really realistic to just imagine you can have a car go out and, operate completely on its own and not have any way for people to give it commands. This is just kind of a normal thing. And if you're doing it right, you don't have millions of requests coming in, right? So if there's let's say there's a million robotaxis out on the road, but there's a 1 in a million chance of an issue happening during a ride, then a relatively small team of region specific operators could monitor and help cars without having to have it be like, thousands of people handling these requests.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you could remote control millions of cars with a push of a button, like there's those rogue
You
pilots
can't
that was
remote
taken.
control millions of cars at the push of a button. Only after the car encountered an issue where it needed help would it actually call out to somebody, and it would do it securely. There wouldn't be a way for somebody to go log into the car and try and control it. And all of the sort of logic is handled on the car computer itself. Really, all they're doing is asking for, you know, a question. For example, do I have room to get around this car? Is it safe to proceed? And the human is really just returning a multiple choice answer, not telling it, hey, go drive off this cliff or something.
Okay, so only on a request then.
Standards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
in this vein, yesterday, Elon was talking about the possibility of using the compute on the cars themselves for an external service. So it doesn't seem like there would be like an I/O problem, if they were simply just asking, different cars how to solve a small problem. Like it seems like they've got that kind of at least figured out or on a roadmap.
Jonathan.
Hey, question for Omar. So, when we're talking about remote interventions, how much do you think, scale-wise, data and connection might be a limiting factor? The only approach to this I can think of is possible Starlink terminals, possibly built in as a backup if there's no data connection. Do you think it'll affect scale at all?
No, I don't. I mean, I think the cell modems that are already in the car are probably sufficient. Like, those get internet access almost all the time. So that should be rare enough that the cell tower can handle it. I mean, Starlink satellites can now just broadcast directly to the cellular spectrum. So you don't necessarily need any hardware. In theory, if they were in some huge dead zone where they didn't have any service, but you did have a line of sight to the sky, then they should still be able to get a Starlink connection, sufficient to receive some command. So, again, the key is really driving it down to the point where you don't need any interventions, right? Because that is the only thing that's really going to be able to give you the performance. And you can program the car to, okay, if you're being out for help and you don't know what to do and there's not any service, then try and get somewhere with service so that we can reach you. But the key, of course, is really just making it so that there aren't really very many remote interventions required. As a matter of fact, Waymo said that most of the remote interventions it has, the car ends up handling the situation itself before it even gets a response back. But it's kind of like, just giving them that entry point to sort of catch unusual situations where the behavior might be undefined, before it just kind of uh, gets stuck or gets confused or does the wrong thing. So, this is something we would hope would go down and down over time, but it is really useful for running a service in the real world today.
Lauren.
Yeah, I think another point to add is there'll likely be an intermediate step between the car figuring it out and a human, that the car can talk to a much larger AI model online that's a lot more power and compute hungry that couldn't necessarily run on the car. And likely over time that'll solve a lot of the issues before a human would need to get involved.
Brandon.
Hey, what kind of use cases are there for the full self-driving chips in the cars besides full self-driving that like Elon was talking about, the like distributed compute power? And how would that work if it was decentralized? Would like what can you even do with that?
Yeah, good question. So, for example, the Apple Silicon chips that you use in your phone and computer, they have a neural engine which hardware accelerates neural net inference. And you can, for example, download a model like Llama 3, probably not the full 70 billion parameter Llama 3 on, an iPhone or something, but you can download a smaller version of the model and you can run Llama 3 locally. So you could provide a query to the LLM and you could inference a model auto-regressively, and you could actually get a result, right? So the car can actually run an LLM locally. Of course, the power is very small compared to the power of a server-side chip. But if you listen to Elon and their product plans, they're planning on making chips that are even way more powerful than what we have today. So, for example, an LLM, you could inference a small quantized version of the LLM locally, even like something like stable diffusion. You could generate an image or something using these neural net accelerators. You can use it using Apple Silicon, the neural engine, and hardware accelerate this stuff. So some queries obviously are going to be well suited to a data center, but some queries that are batch queries that don't need an immediate response can actually probably just be run using distributed inference. Like if someone wanted to generate a stable diffusion image or something, they could, you know, have a bunch of cars go and inference the model to work on those prompts, right? And the prompt could be a pretty small thing, and then you're just taking it, you're inferencing the model, and sending the results back to the person. So pretty much anything where you need to inference a neural net and that actually fits within the hardware that's on the car, that's something that potentially you could use it for. Another thing that I was thinking is it could really be a window into Tesla's fleet. I mean, not only do you have this inference computer, which can be used while you're parked, right? It could be inferencing some LLM or something when you're parked, but you could also have a situation where people wanted to do research on the real world or something, and they could actually have their own custom models that were inferenced on the fleet with real fleet data. So let's say, for example, uh, Best Buy says, "Hey, we want to do a study of foot traffic around our retail locations." So we can actually take a model that could maybe analyze this and push it out to Tesla cars, and they could run it in the real world and actually give us some real world data back. So they'd probably want to be very selective with what partners they had that allowed them to sort of run a model on the fleet like that and pay for it. But if you think about it, it's kind of like another passenger, right? You could have 5 human passengers and one passenger that's an AI model where you're actually selling, Best Buy or the car dealership or whoever a sort of seat on that inference computer to run whatever model they want to run.
Brandon.
Usually like 5 or 10 are just good.
Brandon, your connection is really bad. Oh my, this is not a near term thing, right? This is like 10 plus years out.
I don't think it's necessarily 10 years out, but he's played around with the idea of a dojo cloud or renting out inference compute for many years now, and nothing's actually materialized. So I'm not sure when, if ever, we see dojo cloud become a thing or renting out inference compute become a thing. It is theoretically possible, but you're not really seeing anybody rent out inference in a distributed way today. It's not really a market that exists. You definitely have cloud as a huge business that many companies are involved in, but Tesla isn't. I mean, it might make sense for them to start doing a Tesla cloud and rent out their Nvidia chips, rent out their Dojo supercomputer, rent out distributed inference compute, and then they could kind of overbuild their capacity on training compute and rent out the excess. But you know, I haven't seen any indications that they're really moving to do that in a serious way. And cloud is
Yeah,
obviously a very competitive business with Google, Amazon,
yeah.
and Microsoft as major players.
Sierra seems to agree with you. And I always kind of keep an eye out for what people are reacting to. So if you agree, disagree, feel free to react, and I'll keep an eye out for it. And Sierra, you're welcome to come up and talk about it too. But having said that, I am offering a coffee bet to anybody who thinks either Dojo or Inference Cloud renting out the amounts to more than $1 billion in profits in the next 10 years. I will take that other side of that bet. Bull 2035.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, and Omar may be familiar, SETI, which is the extraterrestrial life search. Back in the 90s, a lot of people would install software on their computers. So at night, your own computer, millions of computers would digest the data. And that's kind of how I hear Elon talking. We're just going to have these computers in our garages that can digest data and then send it back. So it's been done before on major scale.
Alexander.
Yeah, I have SETI at home as well. But however, if the computer runs in the background, wouldn't that like tear on the hardware and shorten the lifespan of the hardware?
Computers aren't really like constrained on the number of computations they can do. So you can pretty much run a computer all the time, right? Like you could drive a car all the time and the computer's not suddenly going to stop working after you drive a certain amount. The bigger concern is really the battery and the power source. Obviously, if you've got some car just like in someone's garage, you don't want to say, hey, I know you have to make that trip tomorrow, but we drained your battery to mine some doggy coin. But if they're plugged in, then and you probably need their permission if it's like really a lot of inference compute being used, right? Because it's going to actually increase their power bill, and you'd have to pay them more than the value of the power for it to really be worth it to them. So, yeah, there's definitely some complications there on the battery side and the power side. But in terms of running the computer all the time, the computer is designed to be run all the time.
As a reminder, this space is Alexander. You have to stay on mute when you're not talking. We have other hands, as you see.
Yeah, I'll take the other side of that
stay on
bet.
mute. Okay, I'll put that back together. But as a reminder, this space is financed by patrons. Without my patrons, there's no way this space would be available on a daily basis like this. So if you like the sports space, then going through the link up of our screens. And somebody who just tested their extension. Give me.
Hey, I didn't cancel. Somebody stole a bunch of our credit cards, and I have to redo all the bank stuff. So I will resubscribe once my new cards come and my new account number.
Okay. Okay, fine. I forgive you. You can't use more than 10 words.
Thank you. My question is Tesla going to take the same approach as Folding Home did with the PlayStations back in the day, where when you weren't using your console, they would use your compute power to basically solve cancer?
Did they solve cancer?
They didn't, but they used a lot of my energy and compute power.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you have obviously SETI, Folding Home, these sort of distributed compute products. Those were using the CPU rather than the inference compute. But you guys are right. There is some precedence for this. But this type of distributed inference server running on a car where the network connection isn't necessarily reliable, and it's a little bit different from anything that's ever been attempted for. It has foundations in things like folding at home. But yeah, I don't. It doesn't seem to be anything we're seeing any signs of progress on today. But it is probably something that could be done. I mean, you just look at their Nvidia chips that they're building up, and they're really building up a massive amount. You can have a really simple business just renting those out, and people go and they'll rent them out from you, and that allows you to build more than you need. You have burst capacity, things like that. So I could see them doing something like that. It doesn't take 10 years. There's a lot of open source software that can basically
do everything for you to have this type of cloud service. And I have no doubt they could put it together if they really thought it was a priority. And I think Elon seems supportive of it. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see it happen and generate more than $1 billion of earnings within the decade.
What do you get to talk in the meantime? Sorry, extended.
I think so. Omar, challenges with allowing a company to access, say, your vehicle if it's on the backside of a firewall.
Well, I mean, the vehicles are like extremely secure with Tesla. It's a really impressive security architecture that they have. There's nobody else that even comes close to what they're doing with their security architecture.
Yeah, but from a trust perspective, also, I mean, yes, nobody's saying that they have bad technology at all.
Yeah, but I mean, so they can or will only connect to a server if you ask it to. Like there's, for example, a setting on the car, and you can just turn mobile access off, and your car will never reach out to any server, never share any information. You can just turn it all off.
Do you think your car could be a firewall?
No, I mean, but the commands are all end-to-end encrypted, right? So when I send a command to my car, I know what the command is, and the car knows what the command is. But even the API now, I can have the car send telemetry to my own server if I have a fleet of cars, and that's end-to-end without going through Tesla at all. Data directly to me without going through Tesla at all, which is really cool because then you eliminate, Tesla doesn't even get the data encrypted, let alone be able to read it. So they are really head and shoulders above the rest of the industry in security and privacy. If you're concerned about, this type of stuff, then this is probably the car you want to get.
It does seem like they would do some, because the standard of trust in these kinds of companies has been violated so much. It does seem like this would be an area where we could definitely see some enhancements in the marketing, or not necessarily marketing, but just the overall public image. Because I mean, we want people to trust Tesla.
Yeah, it's definitely something that people don't know about. And, EVs and electric cars often get like a bad rap. Like you sometimes hear these sort of conspiratorial arguments like, oh, the government's going to turn it off or they're, spying on you or whatever. So maybe it is something that could be marketed more.
Yeah, so I had a question for Omar. So we know like Elon likes to kind of cross-pollinate his companies to enhance his other companies. And what do you think about like XAI like making a cloud kind of service maybe to help like implement Grok? Because we know Tesla said they want to kind of implement Grok as like a service in their cars, mainly for like data gathering and information. Do you think that's kind of possible?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard about them talk about building a cloud service for XAI. It seems like they're more focused on creating a training cluster for themselves, and they would probably use other public cloud services to distribute their models, I think. But yeah, building a data center or a cloud themselves, I think, would be a big headache. Why do all that when you can just use one of the clouds that already exists For Tesla, it's a little different. They're kind of bringing their unique assets like Dojo and the car inference computer to a cloud offering. But yeah, I mean, the way I think about sort of like the companies is, okay, would it make sense for Tesla to make a rocket? No, not really. So it makes sense for SpaceX to do it. Obviously, SpaceX existed first. Does it make sense for Tesla to train an LLM? Not really. Okay, so they can do it. They haven't indicated any desire to build a cloud. I suppose it's something that could happen in some distant point in the future, but they haven't talked about it yet. And also on the security point, one other thing that Tesla does that's really important is they submit a car to the Pwn to Own competition every year. So the way this competition works is anyone who hacks into something, they get to keep it. So you hack into the Tesla, you get the Tesla. And what this does is it actually encourages people to try and hack and share how they did it. And then the issue can, of course, be fixed via an over the air software update, which is another huge security feature that you don't see in other cars. You're not getting security fixes pushed over the air. So, yeah.
Yeah. So do
Complexity.
you,
Trevor, you got to ask the questions like in a complete fashion in 10 words. Start with a question word. You don't have to say things like, I have a question for Omar. Just be efficient. Complexity. Z-Wang. Grant. All right. Nobody should be hanging out on the speaker board if they don't have anything else to say. Complexity.
Yeah, so I was actually reading up on the commercial tax credit in the US. And, I think that it is necessary for companies to meet the critical sourcing requirements because most of the subsections are interlinked to each other for both the commercial as well as passenger vehicles.
Omar, what do you think of the wording at the top?
Yeah, I agree with it. It seems like an easy bet. 10 years to generate $1 billion. Like, they are building one of the largest compute clusters in the world, right? And if you look at what their ambitions are to solve self-driving and robotics at scale, they're clearly going to need a lot of compute. And if they're successful, I think they're going to have one of the best sort of cash flows of the AI era, right? And a lot of that's going to go into building more compute. So it's not inconceivable that they could have a cloud offering where they start renting some of that out. And 10 years is a long time. Like, okay, when you're saying is Elon going to do something in the next year or two, that's more of a question mark. In 10 years, I feel like the chance is probably better than not that this actually exists in some fashion. I mean, Elon said it himself. AWS is now worth more than the Amazon retail business, right? So these little sort of offshoots, I think it could have the potential to actually generate more earnings than the selling of the physical cars themselves.
All right. In other news, we have the Cybertruck now foundation coming next quarter, right? There was some rumor today that its first order was placed and August, September delivery was scheduled, but I haven't been able to confirm that. If anybody has confirmation, please request to speak. Flexible.
You can add me to this bet as well about the cloud revenue, for Yes with Omar.
No, this is a one-time, first come, first serve. You weren't quick enough. Omar jumped on it. Omar, what do you think of the Cybertruck news?
I think it's really exciting. I mean, I really love my Cybertruck. Elon wasn't kidding. It's just a really smooth, comfortable ride. It's arguably the best Tesla, just in terms of what you feel like sitting inside it and how it drives. It's got the most technology. It's got stuff like power share, the outlets in the back. It's a really great vehicle. So the price is going to start coming down and making it a lot more accessible, which is really exciting. I mean, the $100,000 is obviously just too much for most people. And production is now ramping past the point where you have enough demand for the truck at $100,000. So a lot of things that are included are going to become optional. So as you price it out, it'll probably be between, 80 and $100,000 depending on the options you select. Like for instance, if you get FSD, which is included today, it'll probably be around $88,000 rather than $80,000. And that should qualify for the tax credit below 80K. So if you got it at 80K, that should, bring it down to 72, which, is like almost $30,000 less for a lot of people. So, we're talking about a big, big improvement in affordability for this product. And I imagine that's going to unlock a lot of demand there. Then, of course, 6 months from now in 2025, they are going to start producing the standard range version for 60. That should be about 250 miles, they said, and the price would get down to 53K after the point of sale credit, assuming they qualify, which I believe they should, given 4680s are made in Texas. So, I mean, this is going to be huge. All this great stuff. Elon seemed to express a lot of uh, pain at their efforts to reduce the cost of the Cybertruck. So that probably wasn't encouraging for, um, just a status update on how the cost reductions are going. But i- I think they are really just at a place where they have to sort of bring out the non-foundation series because production is ramping past the point where you can sell the foundation series at $100,000. So if you're a buyer and you've been holding out, you didn't want to get a foundation series, your time to shine may be coming up next quarter. And, it was a little bit harder to recommend the foundation series because, yes, it's a great vehicle, but can I really recommend for most people getting this truck configured at $100,000? Probably not. But at $80,000 with a point of sale credit down to 72, absolutely. This thing is a phenomenal value at 72. I mean, to me, it's worth 100K. It's really a 100K truck when you're driving it. That's what it feels like. But to be able to get it now at this price with the point of sale credit, I think we're going to see a lot more Cybertrucks on the road as these long range and standard range versions get out. And it's going to be super exciting. This is just a really great product. And it speaks to, I think, the ramp of both General Assembly and the 4680 that they're able to even, get to non-foundation series this early.
Okay, great. Thank you to Alexander for signing up for spaces here on Patreon. Nick, can you read the letter at the top? I'm in a loud area right now. I can't read it. Nicholas. Euler. Nick, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now? So
Yeah,
I just got the new update too for the visualization. It's not 12.4, but it's the V12 visualization. It's pretty incredible. So I'm still on 12.3.6 for FSD. But here's the letter. So over the past few weeks, my colleagues on the board and I have enjoyed meeting with many of you and discussing your views on the important matters that were voted by the stockholders at the recently concluded annual shareholder meeting. As many as you may have heard me say in the lead up to the meeting, this vote was about fairness, respect, and the future of Tesla. And by that, I may only mean fairness and respect with regards to promises we made in 2018, but importantly, fairness and respect to you, our stockholders. We believe that the will of Tesla's owners, as expressed
Dude, are you
through,
driving right now? Are you driving?
well, FSD is driving it.
No. Omar, can you read that?
You got to watch the road. Come on.
Seriously, come on.
You're going to get a strike. All right,
He's
yeah.
gonna get into an accident. Forget the strike.
All right, what was the last part you read?
Just start from as you may have. This is Robert Denholm's letter to after the shareholder meeting.
As you may have heard me say in the lead up to the meeting, this vote was about fairness, respect, and the future of Tesla. And by that, I not only mean fairness and respect with regards to the promises made in 2018, but importantly, fairness and respect to you, our stockholders. We believe the will of Tesla's owners, as expressed through stockholder votes, is paramount at publicly traded companies like Tesla. We take the results of your vote at our annual stockholders meeting very seriously. Regardless of how you voted in the proposals this year, we appreciate your participation and the time you invested to understand the complex issues leading up to the meeting. Our board of directors is here to serve all of you, to represent your interests, and ultimately to create lasting value for you. I assure you that we will continue to do so going forward. As for what happens next, we filed the paperwork necessary to reincorporate the company in Texas following stockholders' approval of this proposal. And we're now proud to call Texas not only our business home, but also our legal home. With regard to the 2018 Performance Award, we believe the ratification of the award and its decisive approval by our stockholders confirms our commitment to the deal we, our stockholders, and Elon made in 2018. We intend to put it back in front of the court in Delaware to ensure that your voices as owners of our company are heard. If you have any questions about the vote, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you for your support and your continued investment in Tesla. Sincerely, Robin Denholm, Chairperson of the Board of Directors.
All right, thank you. Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas on Tesla's Texas vote says, we were taken by surprise by the shareholder approval to reincorporate the company in Texas. There are few precedents we can find of public companies moving their stated incorporates from Delaware to Texas. And in another note, he says, we look ahead to the full measure of having Elon Musk's fuller attention and energy behind the company's strategy as it undertakes the biggest metamorphosis in its history. Interesting. %72% shareholders voted, nearly the same as 73% 2018. Texas reincorporation was approved by 63%. Our resident mayor is coming up.
Hey, just wanted to know if is fuller attention an actual word? Does that even exist? What does that mean?
Well, that's first of all 2 words. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. But the shareholders appear happy with Elon's performance. So.
I thought he worked day and night. I thought he already has his full attention there. I don't understand what fuller means. Does he have his full attention, or slightly a little bit more? Like,
what's your position? What's your position like now? Are you all puts?
In this stock, yeah. But I mean, again,
yeah.
So if I'm biased on the short side, let's turn the other side. If you're bullish,
I didn't say you're biased. I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering your position.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you can use the same argument if you're long that you want to see what you want to see, right?
Nobody's talking about bias right now. I just asked you a factual clarification. Stop being so defensive.
Yeah, no, I'm in all puts.
So Omar, Cybertruck price is dropping from 100K to 73,500. And he said next quarter, but that's only like 2 weeks away. So he wouldn't have said it if it was
Yeah.
very, very near term.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not going to outsell the F-150 Lightning in Q2, I think they're definitely going to do it in Q3 now. And you have to also wonder about Rivian. I mean, the Cybertruck was already outselling the Rivian R1T at $100,000 when the R1T was in the 70K range. What's going to happen when the Cybertruck costs 72 and then later 53 in 2025? They're supposed to try and become gross margin positive, but that's probably going to exert some pricing pressure, especially given the fact that the Cybertruck has features like steer by wire that the R1T doesn't have.
Yeah, Rivian stock is down more than 10% in the last couple of days here. Obviously, the company. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm done. I'm done talking about it. Kind of shocking to me that Magic is short Tesla and not Rivian.
Yeah, shorting Tesla is always playing with fire.
Yeah, so I mean, I just posted a video that not only myself, since I'm an internet rando, but if you guys remember The Big Short, some of those guys are also shorting Tesla. So it's a big institutional trade. And also, I mean, the second point is that if you're so confident in your long bet, why do you care about a short? Do you care about it? Do you care about other people? If you're so confident in winning, why do you care if you?
No, I hope you short more. I don't care. I'm just wondering why you're shorting Tesla, not Rivian.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's just a general from bulls, not just here in Tesla. I just think in general, other meme stocks and other longs, they say, "Oh, short sellers are bad people." I don't. I want to address that. That's not the case. Like,
No, I think you're a good person. Did you not see my banner? Despite everything, I believe people are really good at heart. I think you're very good at heart. You're just kind of misguided in the near term. But that's why you're here, right?
Yeah, I mean, in 2018, 2019, we heard the same things from short sellers. Oh, look at these guys. We got Jim Chanos from Enron. We got David Einhorn. We got all these brilliant guys. Guess what happened? Jim Chanos had to shut down his firm in part because of the Tesla short. So it's taken down a lot of legendary investors.
yeah, I mean, because it's a meme stock. Because if it traded on fundamentals, that wouldn't happen. So that's the case. Is they shorted it based on assuming people are rational and logical, and they got burned because
So Michael Burry is short right now, Tesla.
He was. I'm not sure if he is anymore. But again, you're talking about Michael Berry, the people.
That's like years ago, right? That's like years ago.
So you're talking about betting against Jim Chanos.
Is that true? Is that years ago?
I'm not sure what he's currently holding. At one point in 2021 or 2022, he was short. Michael Berry.
Years ago he was. But also, Jim Chanos, what's the other guy? The Lehman Brothers dude. He was also short in 2019 when they got their hits handed to them. I don't think Jim Chanos is still short Tesla, is he?
I don't know what his position is, but that's who got me interested in him and Bethany McLean, which are both Jim Chanos was a short seller and Bethany McLean was the investigative journalist that uncovered Enron. So they both unequivocally said this is a fraud.
See, that was true in 2019 too, and then its stock went up 20 times. You gotta come up with new material.
I mean, if you look back at what Chanos was arguing at the time, he basically argued that the company would become insolvent and go bankrupt. And quite to the contrary of his thesis, Tesla's actually become one of the largest manufacturers of vehicles in the world. So the outcome he predicted was very different than what actually happened. And that's why he had to shut down his firm and why his position did so poorly. If you're positioning yourself for bankruptcy and the company, becomes much larger, obviously that trade is not going to work out very well for you.
Yeah. So just because the market is irrational doesn't mean you're wrong. I think that's a big thing. You can burn shorts on GameStop. We've seen that. That doesn't mean that GameStop is worth what it should be.
So you think Tesla will go bankrupt?
No, what I'm saying is that just because the stock price is the stock price
Do you
100%.
think Tesla will go bankrupt? Because that's what Jim Chanos says in 2019, and you're saying that was because the market was irrational. The stock went up 20 times. So do you still think Tesla will go
believe
bankrupt?
the stock is at max worth $50, and that's going to come into fruition pretty soon. So the game isn't over. It's a long game of chess.
Okay, great.
I mean, he didn't even say it was going to be worth $50 in 2025 or something. He said it was going to be worth $0. So you can call it a meme stock, but the objective reality is that it did not go bankrupt. The reality is that it's producing earnings.
Exactly. And Magic, by the way, Magic, you misstated Michael Burry's position. Michael Burry, you said, was short. He stopped shorting Tesla in October 2021. Ken is correcting you in live chat. Grant?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I don't think that Chanos shut the firm down because he lost all of his money on Tesla. I think he had some drawdowns, but decided to just manage his own money. I just don't know that that's an accurate portrayal of what happened.
And why did everybody want to stop giving him their money? Because he kept losing it on an emotional bet in Tesla. These people, when they get into it, it becomes this obsession for them. I still have Tesla short sellers who are trying to, harass me and do all this crazy stuff to me just for tweeting about the company. And, like Grant and Magic, they seem fairly normal. But I think for Chanos and some of these shorts, it became an obsession to the point where they really let it get the best of him. And it's hard to argue that his high profile Tesla bet hasn't had an effect on his firm. I think obviously business would be much better for him if he had never gotten involved with Tesla.
Grant?
Yeah, I'm fine with that characterization. I think that's right. I don't want to shift the topic, but you know what? Maybe I just want.
Yeah, this is Grant's second time using the S word in the space, which demonetizes. So I've warned him many times, so he's kicked out of the space. Magic, I'm going to move you down, frustrated with your misstatements today. Omar, what do you make of the spring update new visualization?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I think they're aligning it with the Cybertruck, so you can see the map now in the corner, which is great in the full screen view. You can see your destinations, your music. So, I mean, I think this is kind of going to be the default view for a lot of people when you're on FSD. You can just have the visualization up. You can see the car in 3D, play around with it, and it's really kind of incredibly detailed. You can even kind of look in the car and see what's on the screen on the Cybertruck. But yeah, it's a really nice UI update to go along with 12.4. From what I'm hearing, there is hopefully going to be another build of 12.4 coming out this weekend, and hopefully that'll go out to some more people. That should have the spring update and the new visualization too, as well as the new hands-free functionality. And I think people in North America are really going to be gushing on X about how much they love using FSD hands-free for the first time.
Yo, I am not a fan of the new visualization personally, and my reason being is they put some major things really close to each other, especially the sliding down of your music. So now it slides down into a tab, and while you're driving, if you want to open that tab, you will miss it and you'll open up your air conditioner. And it bothers me because I think they could have done better on the UI. There's also bugs in the UI when you're turning on blinkers, because what they did is they made their UI move based on where you're putting your blinker picture. And every once in a while, I notice that it will shuffle itself into its default position and not the position I chose. And so it's buggy and it needs to be worked on.
Omar, have you heard anything about a dot release coming out this weekend? 12.4.2?
Yeah, that's what people have been saying. So hopefully we see that show up this weekend. I know a lot of people are really excited for the hands-free update, so I really want to see that go out to everyone too. It's going to be really exciting.
All right, let's talk about other stocks a little bit. Nvidia is up 2% today, pushing higher. I think this is, let's see, it's an all-time high for Nvidia. Yeah. In the last month, Nvidia is up 45%. What do you make of it, Omar?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of momentum around the stock split. Um, so I think their position seems to be really strong. Their earnings seem to be pretty strong. It may be getting a little ahead of itself. We'll see. But the trends that we've talked about in terms of their core business sort of being commoditized by other chip makers, it doesn't seem to be playing out all that quickly. Seems to be something that's maybe playing out over years rather than quarters. So their core business remains strong. Sentiment is very positive. It is just getting a lot of attention from everybody, from professional traders to your average retail trader who's opening up a Robinhood account for the first time because their cousin told them they got rich. So it's just got a lot of momentum right now. And as long as earnings growth remains good, I think that'll continue. At some point, I think there is a limit to how much you can grow, especially when you really get into sort of the large law of large numbers. You run out of customers to really deliver that kind of growth. But we're not really seeing a ton of signs of slowing right now. As more and more people deploy these sort of AI powered features into their applications, we could just see demand for inference and training continue to increase near term. So I'm continuing to hold Nvidia. I haven't sold any of my position, and I think it's probably on track to, I think, exceed Microsoft and become the most valuable company in the market.
That's amazing, isn't it? Because it is Microsoft's and other couple of companies' demand for these GPUs really driving the valuation for Nvidia. And, you know, I guess the supplier is now worth more than the customer.
Yeah, it does seem a little crazy. And they're really neck and neck. I think Microsoft's 3.29 trillion and Nvidia's 3.25 trillion. So it could happen anytime, maybe even next week.
Dave,
Hey, thanks for bringing me up. I had a question for Omar. I don't know if you talked about this earlier, but going back to what you just said about 12.4.2, I haven't been paying attention as much to post this week. So, but I do think it went out to a very limited number of people this time. And I have it, and I have not noticed any real regressions. So I'm kind of wondering why it's taking so long. If you have any insight on that, I mean, for me, pretty much everything has been better, and the hands-free is totally amazing, like you were saying.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying using it too. it seems to have improved since the initial days a little bit as well. So it looks on track to go out to more people this weekend and next weekend, I think. Other people have also agreed. So I would hope we actually see that going out and get a new build very soon.
Cool. And one more question. So, a lot of comments that I've gotten. I posted a video, and it was a time lapse. People asked for it, and it was like a 40-minute drive, no interventions. And I made a comment about it would be great if we could get to the point where we could still wear sunglasses. And I think that based on what we've known for years, that Tesla can tell when and see the eyes with sunglasses. You know, in the early days, if you had sunglasses that had gloss or maybe polarization, then the camera wouldn't work. You'd get more nags. And I think, there's videos Green posted with the percent, what they think you're doing if you're holding a phone. I think they could do it. I just am wondering if they don't have as much confirmation right now, and that hopefully in the next couple releases, maybe you'll be able to wear sunglasses. What do you think about that?
Yeah. It seems like what's going on with the sunglasses is that they can get a pretty good sense of where you're looking, even with sunglasses, just from the way your head is tilted. In some cases, depending on the sunglasses, they can actually see through the sunglasses and see your eye using like the IR beam and stuff like that. So they can sometimes still see your eyes even when you're wearing sunglasses. But it seems like right now they're just kind of detecting sunglasses and just kind of putting a blanket ban on sunglasses. And uh, people are saying that the nag still does occur less frequently when you're wearing sunglasses, but when you are wearing sunglasses, you're not in that hands-free mode. And I think they kind of just said, look, for now, the sunglasses decreases our ability to accurately predict the gaze. And so we can't really be as strict as we can when we can see their eyes clearly. I do agree that in the future, as they get more confident in their ability to track eyes through sunglasses, at least, specific sunglass brands, they are going to expand it. And, I think eventually they'll even turn the driver monitoring off. But this is definitely the number one complaint that I've heard from people about the hands free is I wear sunglasses all the time. I'm not going to be able to use this because, I'm always wearing sunglasses. So that would definitely be well received, I think, if they did it. And I think they definitely could support sunglasses in a future update.
I think the integration with new hardware in the vehicle would help a lot because Chevy Blue Cruise, they put their position of eye monitoring right in front of you. It's practically on your steering wheel, looking right up. And there is no gauge cluster, obviously, on the Tesla, but there is probably ability to add extra things inside the cabin of the vehicle in the future. I did read an article about a month ago saying that Tesla is kind of working on head tracking. Like that is actually probably a more positive than an eye tracking system, in my opinion, because everybody's head constantly nods downward when they're looking at a cell phone. Nobody's driving around with their cell phone up in the air. They typically hide it by their waistline and then they appear down at it. And so I think head tracking would be more beneficial than eye tracking, or you could just have both of them combined and it would solve the issue. Then head tracking would be used when you're using sunglasses. When you're not using sunglasses, you could then track the retina.
Omar, we have a question for you from Stephen in YouTube live chat. He says, how is stainless steel holding up for Cybertruck? Does it show dirt? Is a wrap necessary option?
You don't need to wrap it. The thing is like it is kind of difficult to keep clean with the stainless steel, like if you want it to look like perfect, but if you just kind of let it get dirty and just say it's, stainless steel, then it works great with the natural finish. I plan to eventually wrap mine black, but I've put that off for a little bit, just because I've been enjoying driving the truck and everything. But I'll probably have it wrapped black eventually, just to protect the stainless steel and add some color to it, make it stand out a little bit. But there's nothing wrong with just using the natural stainless steel. I think it looks pretty good personally, but that's going to be up to really your personal preference.
Yanni,
Yeah, I wanted to ask. It's clear that, for me at least, that Tesla is losing a lot of business, mainly on the high end against BMW and Mercedes because of internal obsolescence of the car. And since most of it anyway is being done by subcontractors, why do you think Tesla is not investing more in that area?
What area?
Basically, upslaughtery inside the inside of the car. A lot of people are going for BMW, Mercedes, etc., just because they're using. Of course, leather is not an option, but there's other options that look better than the current vegan that
Steve, just
Tesla.
literally all you have to say is why is Tesla's interior so minimalistic? Omar?
Yeah, I mean, Tesla's actually outselling BMW and Mercedes and others here in the United States, as a total. So people, I think, like what they're doing. And, BMW and Mercedes, I think, have their own kind of thing going for them. A lot of people like that sort of a traditional luxury interior, and they're going to continue to do a good job of that. But I think Tesla is really kind of beautiful in its own way, and a lot of people really appreciate it. The minimalism, everything done through software through the car, a modern experience. To a lot of people, great technology is luxury, and simplicity, minimalism is something that a lot of people like. So, if you don't like the Tesla interior, then you can go get a BMW or Mercedes and have to deal with their software, their technology, their charging system. And, I think the market is just kind of speaking pretty loudly. Over the next few years, I expect Tesla to probably overtake BMW and Mercedes in sales globally.
Yeah, just to add to that, I used to think that Teslas were not premium, but if you haven't driven the new Model 3, which Omar, you have, it's a huge step up. Like their seats are amazing. But the other thing is, I have two kids, and I can tell you with confidence, there is no other car that can stand up to the interior of a Tesla when kids spill stuff all over it, when they spill drinks, when they do it, like everything is always cleaned. You can clean the seats, you can do anything on those seats, and they come up and it gets cleaned. And if there's a piece that breaks in there, you can just pop it off because it's all clips and then pop in a new piece. So I used to complain about that a lot too and say, hey, the interior of a Tesla, it's not that great, but I've actually come to love it because of the simplicity and how easy it is to fix, clean, and repair. And then when I sat in a new Model 3, I was like, wow, they've updated their trims. Like this is amazing. So I can't actually wait to get a performance model. I think I might buy one here soon. But those are even more fantastic. And I might just buy it because of the cooling seat feature.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy makes a great point. The latest cars are really, really nice. Like this new Model 3 Performance I got, just the little things, the feel, the sounds, the quality, it's all just like extremely solid, really top notch, and just, very beautiful. It's got things like the screen in the rear now on the Cybertruck and new Model 3 and new Model S and X. The EQS we got my mom doesn't have that. It just has sort of, normal back seat. And the materials they use and everything are all like very beautiful, very premium in my opinion. I had some friends, we took them in the Cybertruck and they were riding around in it. They're like, "Oh my god, we just love it so much near. There's so much space. It feels so, sturdy, so premium." Um, so I think people really like it. Honestly, just looking at the EQS, I got in and Mercedes famous for their great interiors and it is nice. They got a pillow for a headrest and stuff like that, but then they've got like this piano black center console and this softer update that looks like Windows Media Player from the 90s. And the pieces of the car are still kind of squeaking. They're not sturdy. They're kind of moving a little bit. And I look at that and I'll take the Tesla any day over the Mercedes. And Mercedes has all these buttons, you got to turn the car on and off. Like Mercedes has an on off button. So you got to push the button to turn it on and push it to turn it off. The simplicity of just getting in and driving. And then when I want to park, I just take off my seatbelt and I get out of the car. Right. So that to me is luxury. It's a modern experience. And, all the buttons on the wheel of the Mercedes and having to turn the thing on and off, it kind of, they have massage seats, they have all this great stuff, but the experience overall is like going back a decade.
Yeah, I have a model. I have a BMW i4 as a company car, and I also have a Tesla Model 3 Performance as a private car. And the i4 has nothing on the Model 3 Performance. It's actually more expensive in a sneak version than the Model 3 Performance is now.
Alexander, where are you looking?
Sweden.
Sweden. All right. Kubas.
Yeah, so the BMW is like
Hey, thanks for having
65,000.
me on. I just was going to speak on the Tesla versus Mercedes topic because I can speak well on it. I have the GLS 450, just the regular, just so where I'm going to speak on the interior side of things, and then I have a Model X Plaid. I don't even like driving the Mercedes down to the grocery store. I'd much rather just hop in the Tesla, go down. I live in Southern California. I've driven the Tesla with 3 children, my wife and my father to the Grand Canyon and to Sedona and then back in the Tesla. I've also driven the Tesla from LA to Salt Lake City, then to Denver through Wyoming and then back. So I've done all of the hard. I've driven it in the snow, 5 inches of snow on the road. It goes sideways. It self-corrects. The Mercedes isn't going to do that. I thought we were going into the median. I thought we were, just going to be sitting on the side of the road waiting on help. The Tesla actually self-corrected. I heard it make a bunch of noise, and then we were going straight again. Downsides to it, heated windshield wipers would be nice because they freeze. But other than that, because there's no engine warmth, right? So it doesn't warm up in the snow. But comparing it to the Mercedes, it is more comfortable in the Tesla not to have to move your right foot from the brake to the gas. Okay. You can get comfortable and not have to move when you're in the Tesla. Like you can just stay in one spot. Everything is just right there. You're not, moving your feet around, having to shift like you are in the Mercedes, having to hit the brakes, stopping a 5,000 pound vehicle. It's not the same kind of driving experience. It's night and day. It really is. And I've been driving the Tesla now for 2 years and I am a dog trainer. So I'm driving 150, 200 miles a day in and out of the car all the time, in and out of traffic all the time. So, and I did the same thing with the Mercedes. So I don't think that Mercedes is going to keep up because here's what the government is telling these companies to do. Hey, I know you build combustible engines, but now we need you to build cell phones. I don't see these companies keeping up with a company that is designed to build electric cars and do it really, really well and focus on interior and things like that later. They're going to win. There's nobody that's going to keep up. There's nobody that's going to be able to challenge it. All right, yep, I'll land my plane. Thanks.
Man, see, this is what happens. Yesterday, Elon goes on stage and takes all these verbose questions, and now I have to deal with people getting used to that. Time and time again, people are coming up with speaker board, asking these verbose questions. They're saying whatever is on their mind. This is not a shareholder meeting, guys. This is Tesla Live. 10 words or fewer. Mavis.
Hey guys, I was just wondering if anyone else struggled with accidentally getting violations with the FSD. I tend to get marked on straight roads. And I was just wondering how you guys cope with it, like just trying to treat it like a normal situation, looking at your phone once in a while, etc.
Well, I mean, you just have to not look at your phone. And if you do want to look at your phone, you have to do it while you're driving manually. So I would suggest using the voice features on the car, the voice features in your phone, and try and avoid using it while you're on FSD.
Put your phone in do not disturb mode, and you won't get notifications to check.
If I'm being totally honest, I think my last one was just while I was adjusting the recline on the left, and that one knocked me out of the game for a little while. So I don't know if it may just be me, but have to get used to that. Thanks.
Well, as long as you're looking at the road, you should be able to adjust your seat. So that shouldn't really be an issue unless it thinks you're looking at your screen or your phone or looking down or something. But, just look at the road every few seconds. It's even okay to use your phone or use your screen as long as your eyes are on the road every few seconds, right? So you can tap something on the screen, look at the road, look for a few seconds, look back at the screen, tap the next thing, look at the road, and it'll be happy with you if you do that.
Thanks. I experienced my first bit of because I've been on FSD for so long. I drove to a volleyball tournament yesterday and had like driving anxiety. Like I had to relearn to drive real quick because it's been so long. It's been several months of no driving essentially. Anyway, thanks guys.
Wow.
I've learned a quick trick. If you keep your knee on the steering wheel just enough, it will pretty much not activate anything. Just kind of keep your knee just enough pressure on the steering wheel so it won't alert you or anything, and you can just relax.
All right. Omar, what else is on your mind?
Looks like a bunch of dealerships and oil companies have sued the EPA to block their tighter emission standards.
Wow. Shocking.
Yeah, I guess it shouldn't really be surprising.
Samir.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. My question is about the FSD usage. Has anybody been put to the FSD jail more than a couple times, or does it reset every time you get a strike, 5 strikes, and gets deactivated for 2 weeks? And does it always come back, or do you get ever permanently put into jail?
With my experience, you always get it back, but there's a new method coming out where you have to earn back your strikes. I think, didn't Elon say you get 5 chances and then you'll earn them back slowly over time?
So right now, if you get 5 strikes, you're out for a week. Starting with 12.4, they have a new system where you have 1 week and then the strike disappears. So you get a strike, it disappears within a week. As long as you space your strikes out enough, you don't have to necessarily get in jail for a week ever.
So once right now on 12.36, it's once you sit out a week, you're back to 0 strikes.
Right now on 12.36, once you get 5 strikes, you're out for a week. Then you get it back. On 12.4, each strike lasts for a week. So after a week, that strike goes away, even if you don't get to 5.
When you say get it back, is that 0 strikes?
Yes. So if
Okay,
you got 1
that's cool.
strike in a week, it'd go to 0 strikes.
I like both options. Thanks.
Amir, do I remember correctly that you voted against the company?
That's a negative. No, I voted for.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. I must be confusing. Sorry about that. All right, let's bring Yaniv up. 18 minutes to the end. 18 minutes. Yaniv, go.
Hey, I wanted to ask what did everyone think about Elon's comment that the Optimus will be able to learn from watching videos or watching people?
Eventually, though, right? Not anytime soon.
Yeah. Sounds like they're doing more task-specific training right now. This is more like speculation about how it could work in theory, but it would be a stunning software achievement to actually demonstrate this working. We don't really have anything like that today that exists as a product, obviously.
We really went into detail yesterday about what it would take for these startups to even come close to competing with Optimus on several fronts. That was really helpful, I thought.
Yeah. They're clearly thinking a lot about this. They think it could be far more valuable than the auto business. Several times more valuable.
Yeah, $20 trillion. Any other questions, comments? Please request to speak.
I just wanted to jump in here and say, you know what? When I joined this conversation today, Yaman kind of gave me some grief about canceling my Patreon because of, financial issues in my
I'm
life.
joking. I was joking.
And
I
now
appreciate your contributions.
now that he feels guilty, and I kind of felt a little sour about this situation, I now have subscribed for an entire year on his Patreon. And I just want to know if there's anyone in the audience who could match my contributions. And he has a great show. And yeah, I come in here every day because I want to escape the reality of work and get informed about good things. Because you can join anybody's Tesla live stream, but you'll leave there with just the same questions over and over and over again. And so join his Patreon and find some value in everything that people are saying up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that. Yeah, like you said, we now have, and by we, I mean my Patreon now has annual discounts. I think about a 10% discount for annual subscriptions.
Hey, Yaman, can I ask you a question?
Just ask the question.
Yaman, just like to get your thoughts on Elon's comment about how he said on the stage about comments about ARK Investments thesis and how he believes in that, and just like to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday a little bit. It's not really something, it's like ARK Invest's valuation models are not something I look at, or what they say is not something I look at. I know Elon likes them quite a bit, but I think their performance track record speaks for itself. So that's all.
Fair enough.
Alexander.
Have you ever gotten Elon into this space?
No, Not once.
Sad.
Why?
Why not?
The space is open for anybody. Anybody can join, stay as long as they want as a listener. They can request to speak. It really doesn't matter who comes in, who doesn't come in. I hope to create a space for everyone to benefit, and everybody's kind of up to them to join or not. I don't worry about who joins.
Elon's probably listening in anonymous mode right now.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of employees, a lot of suppliers, contractors, ex-employees, many customers and investors listening. It's a very diverse group of people. And the goal is to get it to a level where people want to join, not because like you're begging them to join, So I think it's doing a good job. I mean, the space, I think, doing a good job. We get about 5 to 10,000 people a day. Like yesterday's space was listened by so far 12,000 people, which is amazing. And that's just from X. We also get 500 to 1,000 people a day listening on YouTube. So it's growing still. Monetization is a problem, but this space is growing. I think the quality remains high. We had speakers come in and out. Every now and then, people come in, join, depending on their schedules. So Omar has been very consistent the last 2 years. Every single day, he's joined me pretty much as I've been in here. So I really appreciate that. But it's about keeping the quality high. It's not really about who joined, the number of people. It's about the quality, first and foremost. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the quality. All right. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we're going to end the space. D. Patel in YouTube Live Chat says, flexible corporate laws in Texas will allow Tesla to reorganize into overall X entity and give Elon his 25% voting right, thereby avoiding volatility in Tesla. Is this likely outcome? What do you think?
What was the question?
D. Patel in YouTube Live Chat says, flexible corporate laws in Texas will allow Tesla to reorganize into an overall X entity.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky one for a public company, a new class of shares, if I'm understanding the question correctly. So it's a possibility, but it's very challenging, especially given that the company's public.
Another question in the reply says, Elon said Model S and X had HD radar as an experiment. How did this experiment go, do you think?
They decided not to include it.
Right. We now have Ken on the board. Ken, what do you think about the Patel's question?
It's yes to both questions. Let's handle the easiest one first, and that's the 25% voting rights. Tesla picks up 100 million shares in preferred stock that will allow them to do many things, and one of them is give the stock or a percentage of the stock or so many shares of that preferred stock super voting rights, so they can take care of his 25% desire for voting control. And regarding the first half of that question regarding or reorganizing into an overall X entity, corporations are allowed to do mergers and acquisitions. So that would be possible too. Is it semi-complicated? Yeah, but mergers and acquisitions happen every day.
Thank you, Ken. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we're going to switch to the after party for patrons. The link to episode 114 after party is at the top of your screens. All right. Oh, we Gianni coming up. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Hey, I just
Yeah.
hopped on. Hey, thanks, Yaman. I just hopped on, and I apologize if this has been asked, but for the legal expert, if the Delaware judge remains intractable, is there a pathway toward the federal Supreme Court on this battle? Thanks.
Unfortunately, not. I do believe it's going to go to the Delaware Supreme Court only. There's no original jurisdiction or federal question involved in this, so I think they're blocked from the Supreme Court of the U.S. They can go to the Delaware Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, can the preferred shares be limited in a way that Elon can really use it only in the case of AI, reasons, etc., like he mentioned, or can you use it then at any case?
That was directed towards me. I really couldn't hear the question.
Yeah, I'm going to ask again. Can the preferred shares be limited in a way that Elon can use it only for the reasons he wanted it, to allow him to control AI development in the company, or would he be able to use it in any other case?
Those preferred shares would not be able to be limited to just AI questions. They'd be more broadly used. Generally, they're used for voting rights, called super voting rights. So I guess in short, the answer to that question would be no, it can't be limited to just specific issues.
Omar, what do you think about the 2,500 per week target for Cybertruck production by year-end?
Yeah, I mean that's about 130,000 annualized. That's basically achieving their full capacity, probably meaning they're starting to expand beyond that initial capacity. So that'd be a pretty good target for the end of the year if they can meet it. But of course, I'd really like to see them go to 250K a year and beyond.
What do you think is the limiting factor here for 680s?
Um, no, I think it seems like it's actually General Assembly.
There's a question that applies that says, is FST transferable again? I think they're going to do it for one more quarter, right?
Yeah, they haven't made any announcement yet, but it should be available maybe next quarter.
All right, good. All right, if there are no other questions, we're going to end the space here in 5 minutes. Patreon after party will start. The link to which at the top of your screens. Thank you very much, everybody. From now on, spaces will start at 2 p.m. Oh, no, we have one more question. From now on, the spaces will start at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Pacific time, new time for the next few weeks at least. Bull 2030.
Hey, Omar, can you refresh us on the $7,500 credit? Would that apply to like a $25,000 vehicle and on leases on such a vehicle? Because if it did, we could see lease rates that are under $200 a month.
Go 235. Omar, did you get?
Let me re-ask the question. Can the $7,500 credit, federal credit, apply to a cheaper Tesla, a lower price Tesla, both on lease and on sale? Let's say it's a $25,000 Tesla.
Of course, why wouldn't it be? If it meets the standard of the price limits and battery sourcing requirements, then why wouldn't it?
I think it would, but we can think of a price point where we could see leases that are under $200 a month for that vehicle, which would be just amazing.
Yeah, but you're also assuming that, let's say, for example, Trump comes to power and he didn't say he's going to get rid of EV credit.
That's what he says.
Yeah, so it's uncertain, speculation.
Yeah, but they'd have to go through Congress, and they don't seem to get much done. But I don't know. It's just something to think about and to see what happens.
We're going to talk about that on Monday. Thank you very much, everybody, and talk to you guys on the after party. If you're not joining the after party, which is at the top of your screen, talk to you guys next time. Take care.